we have some paint to test.
Illustrations by me.
So recently, I've been looking for a granulating palette, and that's really what I wanted to do. I love the Daniel Smith Primatech paints. I absolutely love them, but I've seen something for a long time now. I've wanted to try it, and I just want to see if maybe that's how I'm going to create my palette. So, I have a package here that just came in the mail, and I did open the top, but I didn't pull it out yet. So, it is the Schmincke version of the granulating paints. And I think it's the 40 dot card. Yeah, oh look at that. They put a little sheet in there so that they don't blend or touch or anything like that. Matter of fact, you can see dents. They must have some sharp paint in here. Anyway, there's 40 here. We're gonna swatch them out, and I'm gonna do a little painting, and then I'm gonna see if there's anything that I really want inside of a palette. And if that's the case, I'll go with these. I'll try and fill up a palette, put something together, and we'll see. It's not going to be a tremendous amount of paint, just about as many as I usually use. So I usually use 12 paint, and then I put a gouache in there. So there's 13 in here. So just something to fill a little small palette like this. That's all I'm looking for. Now, some people hate granulating paint. I love granulating paint because what I do with the line and wash stuff is I put the paint down, and then I see where it kind of feeds into itself, and any kind of separation and granulation, it's a lot easier for me to see this is where I want to put the detail, or this want to accentuate this particular area right here. So I love granulating paint. I use Primatex all the time. In that palette, there's plenty of granulating paint in there, but I wanted a only granulating paint, just strictly granulating. And these are supposed to be some of the most granulating paints ever in existence. Some of them have multiple colors in them, so you might have a yellow that gives off like a reddish color with it, or it just, we'll see how this goes. I'm new to this one. I've never used Schmincke paint ever in my life, so this is all new to me, but I figure this is a great place to start because this is what I'm looking for. Alright, let's get to the swatching first. Okay, so I wanted to highlight these paints, so I'm using a rough press watercolor paper. Apparently, the rougher the paper, the more the granulation shows, so that's wonderful. There's more grooves and textures for that sediment to settle into, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to use this here. This is the Arches rough watercolor paper, which is probably more rough than other watercolor papers, but it's 100% cotton. I wanted to do this on this paper. I'll fold it up and stick it in my swatch book. But also, across the top here, I put, like, it had volcano, galaxy, deep sea, shire, desert, tundra, glacier, and forest. I'm not going to write that out for every color because it just starts that way. So everything in this row here, or in this column rather, it will be volcano. It'll be volcano orange, volcano red. You get the idea. So there are two things here that they're not doing for me that I thought they would do. And that is put the colors in similar order. I know not everyone has a yellow, but maybe you'd put the pink down by the red and the blue with the other blues instead of with the green and the brown, when the green is here, but then the green is down here, and then the blue is here. And so, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I thought that it would be easier to just say, okay, here's all the yellowish colors, and here's all the reddish colors, and the blue and the... But they didn't do it like that. That's fine. Not all of the colors are in all of the sets, so I wanted to be able to pick the colors from here the way that I would anything else. So I'm not going to get too crazy with this. I'm just going to put down a swatch of color. I might go back into it with a little bit of water to see if it separates. This isn't going to be... Look, I don't do the swatches like the other people do the swatches, and they have an entire sheet of, oh, this is with salt, and this is with pepper, and this is with sugar, and this is with gauze, and this is with saran wrap, and this is with aluminum foil, and I'm not going to do that. For me, I just want to see the colors. I'm not doing all that crap to it. You can do that if you want to. If you see a color you like, get the color and experiment how you want. But I'm saying I don't do all that crap. So here we have Volcano Yellow. I'm going to tilt this a little bit so it's easier for me to lay this color down. I'll keep it in the frame, don't worry about that. It was a little bit harder to re-wet than I thought it was. But it's okay. Sometimes it takes a little bit of scratching it out to make sure that you get that color on there the right way. Now a granulating yellow is hard to come by. So I was very interested to see what was going to happen here. I might need to give it a little bit more water and maybe let it sit a little bit more. I'm not really sure. It doesn't seem to be much of a granulating color, but it's a light color. So we'll see how that comes out. Maybe when it dries, you can see it a little better. I'm going to pre-wet these too, so maybe it helps a little bit, re-wet them a little bit. That yellow was a little hard to re-wet, if I have to be honest with you. Okay, here's the orange. This is a volcano orange. And once again, very hard to re-wet. Not very vibrant of a color, if I have to say so. And I keep saying if I have to say so, but I really do. I'm trying to be as honest as I can with you here. I can see the granulation happen immediately with it, but it's not a different color of granulation. It's just a very pale orange color. Not very vibrant, but it's not. Maybe it's not supposed to be. So I'm not judging this based on that. I'm really just seeing what the colors will give me. Now this next color is one that I've actually wanted to try for a while now. It is the Volcano Red. This is something that I was very excited to try. And I just thought it looked nice when people swatch it out. I, again, am finding it very hard to re-wet. These colors are extremely dull after you use them here. And maybe they wouldn't be if you use them straight from a tube, but I never do that. I use them dried. So I'm re-wetting them, and that's the color that they're coming out. Now, I thought maybe this was going to be much brighter and more granular. Let's see when I'm done. We'll see how that goes when I'm done. I'm hoping to get better here. We need to improve this because so far so bad. Alright, so here's the violet now. That's a nice color. It kind of reminds me of the Perylene Violet, but there's supposed to be some granulation here. I'm trying to give it as much as I possibly can to try and help it along. Now this is supposed to be a brown down here. Let's see how that works. Wow, that's like a almost black brown. That's darker than sepia, if I had to say so. And I do. I don't know where I got that from all of a sudden. I never say that, if I had to say so. I never say that phrase, and I've said it 10 times in the video already. I apologize. I'm not going to say it anymore if I have to say so. So it looks more like a sepia mixed with a little bit of black or something. Maybe a granulating black. I can't really tell yet. I'm going to let these dry all the way before I make any kind of judgments on all that. Now, typically, pink colors, they're very hard to re-wet and they look a little bit dull. So this is the Galaxy Pink. And it's probably the most vibrant color that I'm putting down on this page. I really like that color. That's a nice color. That's something that can be used for a lot of different things. Maybe a good mixing color, but definitely just straight by itself, I like that color. Here's a Galaxy Violet, and even it is a little bit more vibrant. Not too vibrant, but it's a little bit more vibrant maybe than some of these other colors. And I think maybe just the desert ones are a little bit paler on purpose. I mean, I've actually darkened on the page. So that it could be that you just have to put it down and then wait for it to darken to make sure that it's the way that you want. And if it's not, you go back in with more color or something like that. But so far, the Galaxy colors are much more vibrant. I want to love this color, so let's see how it is. Oh, that's a beautiful color. That is a very nice blue color. It's very close to the chromium blue oxide that I use from Daniel Smith, but it actually looks a lot more solid. I'm not sure. That's probably a little opaque if I had to guess. But this is as well. The top may be a little bit opaque. That's okay. I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me at all because I usually go with the ink on top of it, so it doesn't matter to me. It's just a little bit opaque. It's not crazy opaque. It's just a little bit. This has some white in it. It has to. This is very opaque here, I think. This is a Galaxy Brown. And it is definitely a brown. It's a nice brown color. I'm going to compare it to like an EF brown iron oxide or something like that. But it's, again, I think that's a little opaque on top of there. And I'm not opposed to that. I have no problem with anything being opaque. It doesn't bother me at all. And as they dry, I can see the granulation a lot more. I don't know if how well it's going to pick up on the video. It is definitely much more granulating as it dries. You can see all the separation. And the blue, so some of these are just granulating same color as what they are. Now, sometimes you get granulating paints that separate two different colors. So the granulation will be different than the puddle of paint around it. But on most of these, I'm seeing the same color. I would say a good majority. This brown, I think, has a little bit of black in it. I think there's some black granulation maybe, but everything else here seems to be granulating with its own color, just a little bit darker shade of its own color. Now we get to the Glacier Black, and that is a very nice, cool black color. So now, I love Lunar Black. I use it on my palette all the time, but once in a while, I would like a dark color that isn't so separating. The Lunar Black separates like crazy. This actually looks a little bit of, has like a purplish, almost like a neutral tint to it. And then some, or something like that, like maybe like a Payne's Gray. But we'll see how that separates out as that goes. I'm going to do some lighter washes of these because I think this is, maybe it's unfair. Maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this so concentrated. I don't really know. This is how I would use the paint, so I don't want to do anything different than the way I would use it, even if I'm not using it the way it should be. Maybe this is how I use it and it's just not right for me. So but so far I like the colors. I'm not saying that the colors are bad. These were weak, except for this brown here, down here at the bottom. The rest of these are very vibrant, very nice colors. I really enjoy these. I am putting a drop of water on each of these with the water brush and then letting them just sit for a second so that they can dissolve a little bit. And it didn't seem to help with these, but with these they came up real well. They re-wet very easily. I had no trouble with these here. So the Deep Sea decided to start with their violet. Okay, it's a little different. I see the difference in shade there. I'm going to add a little bit more paint here on top and see if that helps. Yeah, it's definitely a deeper shade here. I'll see how that dries. I like this violet better. I think it's a nicer color. And there actually is a little bit of separation, maybe of a slightly reddish tint. I can't really tell too much. It's a little bit of a different tint, but I really have to see when these two dry how similar they are. But yeah, you can see a little bit of a darker color and then a little bit of a reddish. I don't know. It's definitely a little interesting here. Okay, well, that's not really what I think of when I think of an indigo. But this is a Deep Sea indigo, so maybe it's a little bit more of a bluish color, the greenish side of the blue spectrum, because, you know, usually your indigos are a little bit more on the reddish spectrum, especially with, I know the Daniel Smith one is, and many other ones that I've seen. They're just a little bit more on the reddish side, but there's a little bit more on the greenish side of the blue. It's a very nice dark blue. I really like that color. It's just not what I would say an indigo looks like. Here's a Deep Sea blue. Very nice. Very pretty color. Very similar to the one right next to it. A little bit of a darker appeal to it, maybe. Maybe a little bit more of like a cobalt. No, it's not even a cobalty blue. It's like a verditer. Verditer, you know a verditer? It's a verditer. It's something like that. Something like a verditer. Or at least in Daniel Smith, I will say. I don't know all the different verditeurs. But if you see a verditeur, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Here's a Deep Sea green. Finally, we get to a green in the Deep Sea. That makes more sense. And that's a very interesting color too. That's like a slightly bluer Prussian green. Boy, it's a pretty color. It's just it's a different green. It's very blue. I didn't expect that coming out of this one. And I know it's next to here, so you're looking at the verditeur, and you're not seeing the green as much. I mean, you're not seeing the blue as much maybe on, yeah, I'm just looking at the camera on the monitor, and this looks very green. It's not very green. If you were just looking at that and you put that down, you could use that as a blue. There's no doubt about it. You could use that as a blue if that's the only bluish color you had on your palette. Almost like it pulls a double duty. Now here's another black. Oh yeah, so that's more like, I would say if I had to guess that that's more like an ivory black. For sure, that's definitely a little bit more of a, I guess, a neutral black compared to this. This looks a little bit blue next to this. And some ivory blacks go a little bit more towards like a green or to a little bit of a brown. This one is, that's a very, I would say it's a very neutral black. That brown has granulated beautifully. There's a lot of texture in here. You might not be able to see it on the, I hate that. You can't see it on the camera, but I'm telling you, this has a lot of texture in here. It looks a little opaque, but it has a lot of texture. This one has, like, the texture keeps coming out of it. It keeps popping out the more it dries. That's very interesting. Okay, we're going to come back to that and see, because it looks like it's shifting a little bit in color as it's drying. So I want to see when we come back to that. It looks like there's a slight different tone underneath. Very interesting. I will come back to that one. We finally get another yellow. This is a Shire yellow. Oh boy. It doesn't seem like Schmincke likes their yellows. That's like a greenish. It's very hard to re-wet again. It's just not a very strong color, I guess. It's not, nothing's really going down on the paper there. Let's see, maybe the olive will be a little bit different here. Here's the, yeah. So this is really light again, barely going down on the page. I'm trying, everyone, I'm trying to re-wet these as best as I can. It's just not really coming. This is nothing like any of the other swatches I've seen online. They must have the tubes and they're using the paint wet, because when you're re-wetting the paint, this is not how it comes off like this. It's just a very light color. They don't come off the page well, and I don't even think that's not an olive green. That's more like a very dull, like almost like a spring green or something like that. I don't like those colors. I'm not a big spring green kind of person. It's not good for me. Anyway, let's go on to the standard green. This is the regular Shire. Oh yeah, okay. So this looks like a permanent green from Holbein or something, that kind of shade. And again, very hard to re-wet. I'm having a lot of trouble getting this off the page. It's not like it's not coming off the page, because I'm seeing the dot disappear. There's just nothing there. There's no paint there. It's not very strong. The tinting strength on these are terrible. This is just, you might as well not use them. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that these are bad paint. If you like them, then that's wonderful. You like them, and you're going to use them how you use them. It reminds me of the difference between the Liquitex Basics acrylic paint and the Liquitex Professional, where you have to layer and layer and layer to build up the color if that's what you're going to use, versus the professional ones, which are they cover very well. It's just, okay, did they label that wrong? No, this is Shire Blue. Now that has a lot more color going down there on the page. It's green. It's definitely not a blue. It may be a bluer green. Okay, now look at these two here. If you just look at these two here, you see this is a green and this is more of a blue. If you had them next to each other, you would swear that that's a blue. But that's a blue-green when you put it next to this color. So it just, everything is relative to what else you're using. If you had only that on your palette, you would say, yeah, that's a blue. That's my blue right there. It's a pretty color. I really like that color. It's just not, it's not necessarily a green. It's like I like this blue and this green. So these two here look good together, I think. And we've got a gray color, another gray coming up. They like the gray, and this is gray with an E. That's important. I think I misspelled the other one. Oh, you donkey, I did. This is a gray with an E too. That's how they do it over there. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just people spell gray differently. I believe it's European, right? To spell it with an E instead of a A. And that's like Americanized, and people sometimes call that bastardized when it has a, you've changed the spelling to match the way that you say it or something. Anyway, another nice color, a little bit of a greenish tint maybe. I gotta wait, let me wait till it dries before I pass any kind of judgment on that, because it's gonna shift. I can see it already. It's already shifting around the edges. So this was Now this is pretty dry, I think. Yeah, it's almost dry. It's not quite dry. Don't touch wet paint on your paper. That's a dumb idea. You're gonna ruin it. Anyway, it's not dry yet, but it looks like it's shifting a little bit with like blue swirls in it. Like on top of the heaviest parts, there's a little bit of blue with the black, but it's not as much as this one. It's just a little bit, and I thought that was more of a neutral, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's a cooler black. And now I notice as they dry, these do get darker. So this was almost, I couldn't barely see it on the page. I don't know if you can now, the way you're looking at it, but it's like a neon color. There's like a yellow inside of here, and then the border, there's like a hard edge. I've never seen a hard edge on rough watercolor paper. That's something new. It's a very, very hard defined edge of blue. I guess because it's granulating, so it separates a little bit. So there's a very hard defined edge of blue with like a neon yellow in it that makes it green. Alright, now deserts are known for their sand, so this desert yellow better be a good color. It's a little weak, again, little weak. And I see it coming off the page. The dot is disappearing as I scrub it. It's just not very, it's not very bright, it's not very strong, it's not very intense. Nothing wrong with that. Some people like to use those colors. I like to use muted colors, but I like them to be intense, and I'll water them out if I want to. I'll dilute them as much as I want. But this one, I don't think I can get concentrated unless I was using a tube. Now, some paints, don't get me wrong, some paints are designed to be used out of the tube. That's the way you're supposed to use it. It's just not, I'm not doing that now. I'm using the dried dots because that's what I have, and I tend to use dried paint. That's what I use. Okay, now I really wanted there to be a good orange in this set. And here's an orange. This is the desert orange, which is, I mean, I understand why it's more brownish, being that it's in the desert line. But my goodness, it's definitely darker, a little bit darker than some of these others here. It's a little bit more color to it, but it's more like a very light brown. It's almost like, what is the, I want to say like a French ochre or something, where it's not really a yellow ochre. It's more like a brownish, but they call it ochre. Anyway, it's a nice color. It's a pretty color. It would be great to use in the foreground if you're doing some kind of landscape. You have some sand or something. That's a great color to use. There's nothing wrong with it. If for some reason they put this brown in the middle, then yeah, it's a brown. It's a light shade of brown. I mean, I don't mean light shade. It's a darker shade of brown, much more yellow in the shade than something like this, which has a little bit of red in it. But it's also not very strong. It's just not a very strong color, just like the others. If I was going to go for a brown that I needed a little bit darker, I might go with this. I might even go with this or with this. This turned into a beautiful, it's like a black with some red in it, and it's a pretty color right there. That's it. You got to get right up on it. I will zoom into some of these later so that you can see what's going on here. Okay, what does green look like in a desert? This is what they think it looks like in a desert. Now, I thought this was going to be a perylene green color. That's what I thought this was going to be. That's what it looked like on the card. It looked a little dark. Then I went into it, and I'm just adding a little bit more paint on the top here to see how it blends out. But really, that is a separating color. That is I can't even, it's like a hunter green maybe with this red. I don't know if you can see that red. This is one of the ones I'll zoom in on later. But there's red down here, a lot of red that's mixed in with the green. Now the Jadeite Genuine over in Daniel Smith has the same thing. They say it's brown. To me, it looks reddish. So this could be a brownish color if you ask anybody else. But to me, this looks a little bit more red than brown. Or like a red brown. It could be a red brown. You can do that with paint. So anyway, I think that this is a very pretty color, and it does definitely granulate and separate the colors very well. So my goodness, this one here has really set. I swore I liked this one better than this one. but this one has separated out very nicely. It's like a dark purple with a pinkish hue in here. My phone's going off. I apologize for that, but you're going to hear it again, I'm sure. And what does gray look like in a desert to Schmincke? This is what gray looks like in a desert to Schmincke. It's more like a greenish. Well, and again, I'm not going to pass the judgment on it because this changed color again. This now looks blue with a little bit of red in there, like a pinkish hue in there. My goodness, everything keeps changing as it's drying. So you really need to have this swatch list in front of you. If you have these paints, swatch them out before you paint whatever you're painting, because the colors are going to change drastically. I don't know if it looks like it did to you, but to me, this completely changed. There is some nice granulation happening in here, and it's a stronger tint of color, so it's a little bit more, I know it's dark, but it's more vibrant. It's like a sepia, but it's starting to separate some color, so we'll see what that looks like. This one is probably the most separating with different colors, I think. But we'll look at them later. And look, one of the things I'd like to remind you, if you are looking to buy new paint, see if that company has a swatch card. Because I've seen most of these paints and said, oh wow, that's a really pretty color. And then I get it here and it does this. And I'm thinking, no, this is no longer a color I want. It's not something I would use because it's so weak. It's so the tinting strength is not strong at all. I thought it was a brighter color. I saw some videos of people swatching this color out, and it was bright. It was pretty strong. And again, you probably have to use it straight from the tube to get to that point. I apologize if my voice keeps going in and out because where the microphone is and where I'm talking, I keep turning my head. And sometimes it may get louder, sometimes it gets darker. It's probably mostly darker. Why did I say darker? It gets lower. You know what I mean. Anyway, okay, this is what orange looks like on the Tundra. Oh boy, how come we have no real orange here? There's a lot of things called orange, but there really isn't an. I wanted an orange so bad. I wanted a granulating orange, and I have not seen it yet. It's not here. This is way too weak for me. I can't use that really. So I wanted a nice orange. This is orange. Orange is not. It's not orange. Here we go with the Tundra Pink. That's almost more purple than the actual purple, but that's just what it looks like. I mean, it's a decent strength. It's not bad. It comes off the card very easily. It wets very easily, and the color goes out pretty vibrant. It's nice, and it's actually getting darker already, and I barely put it down. This is a Tundra Violet, and it's supposed to be a Tundra Violet? Well, let's see, because, listen, I'm not going to pass any judgment on that, because I thought that one was going to be dark and terrible, and it's beautiful, by the way. And this one could do the same thing. I don't know, maybe it looks very similar. I don't know if you get one that you need the other. It looks like it's separating out a little bit pink. So I think those are almost the same color if they didn't mess up the dot card. I don't know. Let's see what blue looks like on a Tundra. I would assume well, that's not very icy on the Tundra. I mean, I know there's a glacier side too, but that's a dark blue for a Tundra. What would you say, like a Prussian blue? I don't know. It's a little off shade from a Prussian blue, but it could be a Prussian blue, I would say. Darker shade of blue. No problem with it. Looks pretty good. That thing got crazy. Well, we'll go. I'm going to zoom in on some of these. Don't worry about it. I might zoom in on all of them and just go through them quick. But it's a pretty color blue. I don't know if I would use it, though. It's not my kind of dark. I like that indigo. That separated out nice, too. But that indigo is probably where I'd go for a darker blue rather than this. And then maybe one of these for one of these down here for like a real dark, like a Payne's Gray almost. I don't know which one because they're all beautiful colors. Okay, green. Here we go with green. And this is actually a green. Holy crap. Imagine that. So that's like, I would say that's like a, I don't know, is that more of an olive color? It's dark. It's a deep dark color. That is a strong color right there. But The tint of it is almost like an olive color. It definitely more olive than that. I'll tell you that. That's not olive compared to this. This is more like a mossy green olive. It's a pretty color, I'll tell you. Let's see what their glacier blue looks like. Oh, it's definitely not a color for me. I would say it's more like an ultramarine. If I had to look at it, it's closer to an ultramarine. Not like a French ultramarine, but definitely like an ultramarine. And that's just not one of my colors. I don't know if it's how it's looking on screen here, but at first on the page I thought it was going to be like more like a cobalt, and maybe it could. It leans a little bit, but that's like an ultramarine color right there. But the thing about ultramarine is it's already a granulating paint. I don't know. Let's see how when that dries, what that looks like. But it's probably not. Now that it's drying, it is getting lighter. That maybe it'll end up more like a cobalt blue. But anyway, that color blue, and people love ultramarine and they love cobalt blue. It's just not one of the colors that I use, so it's not for me. It's just not something I use. But doesn't mean that it's a bad color. It's a very strong color. It looks nice. It looks pretty. It's a very nice blue. It's just not one that I use. Here's a turquoise, they say. Yeah, that's a turquoise color. Reminds me a little bit of the Daniel Smith, the Primatech turquoise one. I forget what it's called. Sleeping Beauty turquoise or something like that. And the reason that I say that is because it looks, it comes off the page a little bit light when you first put it down, but it's already starting to get darker and looking like a very vibrant color. So it's just one of those colors that the Daniel Smith version, from what I understand, I have not used it. But yes, I have. I've used the dot card version. I've never used the color in a painting, though. But it comes off very... it's a lot harder to re-wet on that Daniel Smith version. This is a very easy to wet color. And at first it looked very light, and now it looks almost opaque with the way how dark it is. So it'll end up drying so much stronger than when you first put it down. That's nice, though. It's a nice color. Okay, the Glacier Green, and that's actually very interesting. It's almost like a green-gray color. Again, not very strong, or at least it doesn't appear very strong at first. But let's see what happens when it dries. If I go over the top there, that got strong. That was a second coat there, and got strong. That might be something that I would use. It's definitely going to the greenish. Oh yeah, it's separating. There's a little bit of red down here. But it's a very nice color. It's like a grayish green with a little bit of red. We'll see how that dries, but that looks like a nice color. We're at a Glacier Brown. Let's see what that looks like. And that's a brown color. That's a proper brown right there. That's what they call that. Definitely leans a little bit more to the yellow than it does to the red. But if that's the color you're going for, it's a nice color. It looks very nice. I'm just going to put a little bit of water here because I want to see if that bleeds out a little bit and gets a little bit lighter. But I'm almost positive that's a yellowish hue underneath that I see. If you compare that one to this one, this is more of a reddish brown. This is definitely more of a yellow brown. So it just depends on how you like your browns. Some people like one of each. Some people like their browns more red. I tend to go for the more of a reddish brown when I use it. But I like the yellow brown too. I still use it a lot. And here's the black. This is the Glacier Black. On the dot card, it looked like when I first started getting that color off that it was a green. But it actually, it is a black. Yeah, that's a black. I don't know if you can see that, but when I first wet that, it's not doing it now. When I first wet it, it looked greenish. Anyway, it's a pretty color. It's more. I'm gonna say it's a neutral black, just like I said about this one, which is no longer, or this one, which is no longer a neutral black, and this one's no longer a neutral black. None of them are neutral black. So let's see how this one turns out. Maybe after it dries, it granulates, and something else happens. There's another color that pops out, and it could do that. That's fine. Oh my goodness, here we go. We have another olive color. It's probably not going to look olive. I'll tell you, that green right there is more olive than any of the other olives. This is not This is not an olive color. Okay, I can say this is more like an olive color, but it's definitely lighter. It's, again, less tinting strength, but it's getting darker immediately, so it's going to end up much darker than this one here. I hope you can see that. Did I just do that off camera? I don't know. But anyway, it's a nice color. It's a pretty color. It's just I do like this green better. I think I can dilute that, water it out. Now hold on a second. I say water out a lot, but that's what I'm doing to me. I'm watering it out. But some people, oh no, you're diluting it. You have to say diluting. I understand it's the same thing. Watering something out and diluting it is the same thing. It's just a different way of saying it. They're both correct. I don't have to say diluting. I say water it out. You say what you want. Let me say what I want to say. Okay, and here's a green. We do a lot of the olive and the green in the same sets. Okay, so this is then that's a green. They got the color right. It's a green. Man, if that was more opaque, I would call that like a. It reminds me of this Terra Verde color in the Holbein gouache. That's what that color reminds me of. I love that color. I use that color a lot. It's one of my favorite colors to use in the Holbein gouache colors. No, is that Holbein? Yeah, this is the Holbein gouache colors. Well, like I said, that's one of my favorite gouache colors to use in the Holbein. So I would use this color green, and it looks like it's granulating out in color a little bit more of that reddish color. They like to put the red with the green, so that's a standard thing. Whenever you have a granulating green, it usually ends up being, they call it brown sometimes, but I look at it and say that's a little bit of a reddish tint. Okay, what does blue look like in the forest? It looks like a very dark green. That's what blue looks like in your forest. I would never call that blue in my forest, but maybe maybe when it separates it's blue. Maybe that's the idea behind some of the naming of these, is that when it separates they call it that color. But I don't see, I'll let that go, but it may be a little bit, it's actually a little bit bluish now that it's starting to dry a little bit. Well, it could be. Let's take a look when it's done. Now this is supposed to be a forest brown. This one's baffling me. This is another brown. That's brown. This is definitely not brown. We'll wait and see to see if it separates or whatever, and see if there's any of that brown in there, but it doesn't look like brown to me. It does cover very nicely. It's a nice green. I would use that as a green. It's a very nice color green. It's just not, it's not brown. Okay, here's what gray looks like in their forest. Maybe it looks like that in your forest. And so maybe this has a greenish tint to it. Maybe everything in the forest just has a greenish tint to it. And that's why they say all it is an entire set of greens. That's what that is. That forest set is just all greens. That's all it is. This gray is a green. It's all green. So I do have to say certain things I'm a little disappointed. If I was looking at this trying to pick a yellow, they're all out. There's no yellow here for me. That's almost ochreish like, but not really. That's ink on my hands, by the way, for the ruler. After I ran the pen across it when I made these lines, I touched the ruler and there's ink on my fingers. Anyway, there's not a yellow here that I would like. So yellow's out for me. I like more of the orangey yellows, like the New Gamboge or something like that, or like a permanent yellow deep or something. Something a little bit more to the orange side. So there's no yellows here for me. There are also no oranges here for me. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't use this color or use this color. I'd probably use this color. It looked very weak when I first put it down, but now it looks nice. It's like it's an orangey brown. So, but it's not orange. I wouldn't use this as an orange. I'd use it for maybe some wood, so maybe inner bark or something where you see like a fresh cut or something. Or if I was doing something abstract, of course. But it's just not really, that's not, I would use the color. It's just not orange. There's no oranges here. I would not use that color. That's not even orange. There's no reds in this set. Here's the thing. If you're going to come out with this extremely granulating colors, whatever, Why don't you make some colors that are normal that people look for, like a yellow that granulates? I don't like lemon yellows or anything like that, but even if I did, that doesn't granulate. It's very soft, very light. It doesn't even, probably wouldn't even mix well because you'd need so much of it compared to another color you were mixing it with. It would just look terrible. It's just definitely not for me. This whole line basically, except for this brown here. This brown is a very pretty color that has a lot of red in it. And I guess that's the volcano of it. It's supposed to be, everything's supposed to be red tinted. But very nice color. There's other colors in here too. It's not just red and brown. There's some other colors in here. It is reddish though, and so that's a very nice color. Now, let me zoom in a little bit while I'm explaining some of these and talk a little bit more about it. Hopefully you can see this a little better. This is zoomed way in here, so no granulation really here. There's granulation there. It's just not. It's not pretty. It's a very weak color. Some granulation there, very weak color, not something I'd ever use. That's a pretty color, it's just very weak. I wish it was a little stronger. It's a pretty color, it really is. It's nice. But again, I don't know. Now you can see in that brown, hopefully, that there is a reddish tint in there that's kind of in the granulation. And it's hard to see the granulation on, and people always say that, it's hard to see on when you're looking on a video. But I want you to just see as much as you can. You can see it a little bit. I think you can see it. But and it's a reddish color. Very nice. Very pretty color. I would use that color. It would be used almost like the like a Perylene Violet or something like that I would use that as. It's a very pretty color. I could use that as my red if I needed to. That's not a problem there. Again, very pretty. Look at the different colors and the textures that are formed in this violet. It's a very pretty color. I would use that on something. I don't know what. I don't use violet very often. I use the Perylene Violet, but that's more like this color. That's a redder color. This is more of like a lighter bluish red color. And so I don't really use it, but if I did, this is a beautiful color. I like this color. There's not a lot of, there's granulation in here a little bit, but the chromium blue oxide or whatever is virtually the same thing with the granulation. It's not a big deal. And this looks like it has a little bit more white in it, a little bit more covering power over on this one. So, but I would still use it. It's a nice color. That's a brown. It's a proper brown. It's a little bit more of a reddish color. You can see some granulation in here. It's pretty. There's a lot of texture on that. And because I'm using the rough paper, you can see the texture a little bit better. Black, that's a nice black. It's like a Payne's blue-gray almost. Almost like a Payne's gray or a Payne's blue-gray. It's a nice color, but I probably would go with one of the other ones because the other ones look a little bit nicer. Like this one here. This color, I'd go with this one for my dark because it's a pretty color. I might get that anyway and put it in my palette. It's a very nice color. Here's a deep sea violet. Again, very nice. I didn't like this when I first put it down. It was too dark, but then you can see the pink coming through, and it looks pretty. So I'm sure if you lighten it up a little bit, water it out a little bit, it'll look a little bit nicer. This color is beautiful. I really like this color, indigo. It is granulating, and it is. It was a little bit weaker than I thought it was when I first put it down, but it darkened up nicely, and it just has it's a beautiful texture. I really like this color blue. It's definitely going to be on my list. It's okay. I like this one better. This is nothing wrong with this. It's a good color. Again, nothing wrong with this color. If you like the bluer greens, nothing wrong with it. If you just looked at these here, you'd say, yeah, that's a lot more blue than this is. But I'm just telling you, when you look at it this way, you see that it's a green. It's like a Prussian green. That's just, I mean, when you look at a Prussian green, sometimes you see the same thing. So it's a nice color, very pretty color. I don't know if I'd use it because I have Prussian green. I use it, and it doesn't seem to be too granulating. Maybe a little bit. I can see some granulation in there, but not crazy. Again, this black, it's one of my favorite blacks that are on this sheet here, that are on this whole thing is probably one of this. And I don't know if you can see it. It has some, like a little bit of reddish coming through or brownish coming. I think it's more red. So it's a little bit more red coming through, and the very peaks, like the thickest parts, look a little blue. So it's almost like a red and blue with the black. It's a very pretty color. I like that one. I might get that anyway. I don't know what to say about that one, and that one. They're just they're too weak. They don't really do anything. I will point out, you can see, yeah, you should be able to see this. There's a blue outline and then yellow inside, and kind of makes it green. But nothing special, and I probably would never use it. I would never use these colors. This one, or this one is just not appealing to me. It's not blue, but a shire blue, I guess everything has a greenish tint to it. It's just like the forest. But it's a pretty color. It's nice. It's just probably something I would not use. That's a pretty color. When I look at these two together, they're just a little bit different than each other. This is a little bit more gray, and this is more black, which is, it's in the name. I know that. I'm reading it. Don't say anything to me about it. But it's just the gray looks a little bit duller, and so I'd probably go with the black. It's just like these. You know, it's almost like it's too weak. If this was a strong color, I like the color. It is ochre-like. So I would get this if it was a stronger tinting color. But like this, I can't do this. Again, this orange here is a nice color that I would use. I just wouldn't use it as an orange. It's a pretty color. It's a nice color. It works. It's definitely more of an orangey brown. It kind of looks like this one here, which is another orange. This is the tundra orange and the desert orange. They're virtually the same. The slight color difference, but really they're pretty close. You wouldn't need to get both of them, that's for sure. This brown, it's not really my color. It's more of, it has like a little bit of a greenish to it. It's almost, but anyway, just not my color brown. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. Look at that green. I will get this green. This green has that reddish brownish color inside here, and then the green on the outside. It's a very pretty color. I really like it. I love how it separates and shows you some. But you know how many greens I have? Perylene green is, of course, my favorite color green, and this gets dark in the green area, but it also has that little red. It's just a very nice color. I might get that. Gray, no. It's like a brownish gray. It's not my thing. It's not a bad color, just not my thing. It looks a little bit like a greenish gray. It's just not for me. And that should be an E. It's a gray with an E. That's very important. I already went over that one. That's a pretty color. It's a very pretty color, and there's a lot of granulation in there that you can see, even on the film. I keep calling it film. You know it's a video. It's not really a film. Anyway, that's what I was using when I was younger. I used film. Anyway, so this is a nice granulation that you can see. The violet, it's okay. I'm not going to get these together, but I will zoom out a little bit. This one is dark with a little bit of pink. This one is dark with a little bit of pink. It's just darker, so it's much darker in the purple color, but it also shows that pale color a little bit more than this one. So this one you can see it, but you got to look for it. This one in the bottom, you can see it a lot down here. There's a little bit more water down here. But anyway, you'd get one of those. You wouldn't get both of them. I would probably go for the deep sea violet. Personally, that's my own opinion. But you can go for this one if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. This blue is nothing wrong with it. It's just not my kind of color. I probably would not use it. This is a green, supposedly. It's not bad. I thought I would use it, and then I started going through some other greens. I don't think I would use it now. It's definitely more olive than some of the other colors that are, say, olive, like this one that's not olive. But it's close to this gray. It's like a green gray, and I'm not a big fan of the green gray. Glacier blue. It's It's a nice color. It's just not for me. I know a lot of people might like it. It did get much darker. It changed colors twice on me while I was putting it there. Put it down, it's one color. Then it dries, it starts to dry, it's a different color. Then it completely dries, it's a different color again. But it's just not for me. Pretty color, just not for me. I don't use a whole lot of turquoise, but it is a pretty color. Now this green, that's a pretty one too. Now, you know, I was talking about this green having that, yeah, I'll get them both on the screen there. So I was talking about this green having that dark green with the reddish in here. This is actually a prettier separation, in my opinion. It's a little bit of a lighter green. You can see the green down at the very bottom there. That's the color green versus this color green over here. So it's a little bit lighter, a little bit more towards the blue side, but it has that red in it as well, that brown or red highlight, the granulation that's in there. And so I like this one. I don't know which one. I'd probably get both of them, but I would probably use this one more. Nice color brown, some granulation, looks good, very dark, very, looks like almost opaque, but I was putting it down as pretty thick. But anyway, when you put that little bit of water on it, and that's what I really wanted to see, if it was like the Pimentite Genuine from Daniel Smith, and it kind of is, where when you put a little bit more water here, you get like a pinkish hue to it. It's so fine. I like the Pimentite Genuine much more than this. The granulation is much better, and it looks a lot prettier. But anyway, if I was going to compare this brown to this brown, I would definitely go with this one. This brown is very pretty. That looks like just a standard black. I don't know what to say about that. It's just a regular black color, more neutral. That one truly is more neutral than about anything else. When we get to the forests and we do this olive thing again, it actually looks a lot more olive than the other olives. So this olive or this olive? No, this olive is not olive, and this olive is. So wonderful. It's a nice color. I don't use it very often, but it's a nice color. If I was going to use that color, it's a great color to use. This green here, not bad. I don't know if I would use this one either. I'm not really sure. Of the other greens, I probably would use this color more than some of the other ones. I do like that. I like that it's a little bit, it leans to a little bit yellow, but it's a green. It's a nice green. This blue is also a green. It's not like this green, or this green, or it's this green. It's its own green. Very dark, very nice, very pretty. A lot of granulation in there that you can see. I don't know if I would have a place for this on my palette, but again, it's a very pretty color. Mostly secondary colors is what I'm seeing. There's no real primary colors that I'm saying, oh, that's great, except for maybe a blue here or there. But mostly, it's all secondary colors that I'm looking at here. That brown green, it did not separate out brown. I would say that, gosh, this is not... not that it's a bad color green. It's a good, nice color green. I wouldn't call it brown. There's no brown separation that I can see. Maybe a little bit in the... I really don't know. I don't... that's stretching it. That maybe has a little bit of yellow in it or something, but it's definitely not brown. And the gray. The gray is... well, it's a gray. It's more of a greenish gray, and I don't like those. We've established that already. So, all right. So looking at this again... just to do a quick rundown, I don't know if I'm actually going to make a palette based on this anymore. I was going to, but I may have to go over to the Daniel Smith and then just fill in some gaps with this. I'll go to the Primatech line and fill in a couple of gaps of some colors that I really like. Like, I really like this brown. I really like that indigo. That's a beautiful color, indigo. The other colors I kind of have, but not granulating, I would say. So I might go for that pink, so I have a granulating reddish color. So so the brown, the pink, the indigo, maybe that black, possibly, but I don't know. Maybe this green, and I'm about out. I don't think there's any other ones that... I'm not a fan of this pink. I think that this pink is much nicer of a color, and I just enjoy it a little bit more. So that's it. I wouldn't even, out of all 40 colors, I could not even get a full palette. I couldn't even do like a split primary palette or anything else out of these. They're very selective with which ones they made. I'm hoping they continue to make more. Maybe there are more, and I just haven't seen them yet. But there was not on this dot card. So it says there's only 40. And 40 is a lot of paint. 40 colors is a lot, and I can't make a normal palette out of it. I can't get a yellow and a red and a blue, and then a couple of greens and browns and dark colors. I can't get them all. I can get some of them, but not all of them, and that's a little disheartening. I'm a little bit upset about that. But let me know, would you be able to make a palette out of this? Could you use these colors in a full palette, or would you have to supplement? I'm sure some other colors that Schmincke has are beautiful, they're wonderful, and people love them. I'm sure they do. My first experience with Schmincke is that if this was my first experience with Schmincke, I probably would have thrown them out the window. But the fact that I got to swatch out all 40 of these, and there's a lot of colors that came out beautifully, and I really do enjoy them, that makes me okay. I'm okay with trying some other Schmincke paints now. Before I was not. I know they're one of the highest rated paints in all of watercolor. Schmincke paints. Everybody talks about them. Everybody goes crazy for them. They are the favorite paint of so many people. It's ridiculous. And here I am saying, oh, I don't know if I could. But I'm just looking at the granulating ones. Keep that in mind. And these, if I had to pick any one set at the beginning when I first started seeing these sets, I would have picked this set here because I wanted a granulating yellow, I wanted a granulating orange, and I wanted a granulating red. And then the violet and the brown were just on top. They were just extra. So I wanted these to be amazing, and these were the worst colors on the whole sheet. Well, no. Let me take that back. These three are the worst colors on the sheet. You can almost use these compared to these. But that's what I would have bought, and I'm glad I didn't, because I would have hated Schmincke paints, and I don't want to do that. These colors, the rest of these colors are bright and vibrant and beautiful, and this brown from this set is a beautiful color. It's probably one of my favorite colors on the sheet. One of, not my favorite exactly, but one of. So I'm going to get a couple of these maybe together that I want to get and mix them with some Primatex and see if I can come up with a full palette of granulating paint. That's my goal right now. But they have to be really granulating. I don't want it to just be kind of like this here is kind of granulating, and I see that there's granulation there, but you can't tell. When you're looking at this on something else, you won't be able to tell. This I can tell. This is definitely a #1 for me. That's a big pick right there. I can tell there's granulation there because it's two different colors. You can see a little bit of the reddish in there, and then the darker blue, and then the grayish blue, and it's just a beautiful color. I love that. That's probably, if I had to pick one on this sheet, that's probably my favorite color. Alright, so thumb up the video if you can make a full palette out of this, whether you take a 6-color palette or you take a 12-color palette, but if you can make a full palette that you would be happy with and get all the color ranges that you want, from yellow to red to blue, if you can get all the colors, the green and the darker colors, if you can get them out of this, then thumb up the video. And if you can't, I would like you to thumb up the video anyway, because I'm going to try and do something with this. I don't know what, but I'll do another drawing with I'll do a drawing with these paints in the next video. This one's run way too long, so I'm going to try and take these and put these into an actual application and see how those go. If you would like to join our community, go to illustrationsbypete.com. You can come in, you can put your own artwork on the site and promote it. You can find some inspiration in the free reference photos. You can just use them however you want in your artwork. You do not need to credit me. Or you can come into the forums and talk to some people and maybe give some advice and maybe find a little bit of information that helps you. So come check us out. Alright, that's about it for me. I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next one.